Hello everybody, my name is James Lucas Lancaster and I am here to show you a presentation of New Zealand. Before I would begin my presentation, I would like to tell you why I was a person who was asked to do this. The reason is, well, of my name you must have already known that I'm not Hungarian. My father is English and besides me has two daughters. One of his daughters live in England, and Joanne, and the other one, Julie, she lives in New Zealand. I went to New Zealand 3 times when we visited her, and well, now I would like to tell you about my experience. Although even now, before I start, I would like to tell you what it takes to get to New Zealand, because I didn't include that into my presentation. It's about a 50-hour aeroplane trip to get there, and well, besides the aeroplane trip, it's not very easy or anything, but now I would like to show you why it is absolutely well worth it to get there. Well, I have brought you places that I have either been to in New Zealand or I would very like to go to in New Zealand, or which are just the most beautiful places to go to. For example, Alpine Crossing, of which you can see on the photo here, is an active volcanic area close to where my sister lives, about 50 kilometers away. And you can see these natural hot springs next to the volcanoes. They're very interesting. There's a great story that goes behind them, because the ancient tribe that was, well, probably the dominating civilization of New Zealand, the Maori, the way they used to cook their animals was in these natural hot springs. In the same way that nowadays, how let's say when in Hungary we kill the pig, let's say, and then we use flames to take the fur off. They used to just put the animals in here and literally boil the fur off. I think there are some more photos, yes, of this place. It involves about 4 active volcanoes, and it's actually very interesting because the tourists are allowed to go around the volcano, even go up the volcano while the volcano is still active. It's only very rare when the authorities will not let you do that. Mount Maunganui. Mount Maunganui is the largest mountain in about a 30 kilometer range of where my sister lives. On the bottom right picture, if I would make the picture a bit bigger, you could see where my sister lives. This mountain is amazing to go up, quite difficult, so if you're feeling fit, then I would advise to go up there. But once you get up, the view is just breathtaking. Besides the one taken out of the air, I have taken the rest of the photos, and I could literally just stick them all on a postcard. They're so beautiful. Around the mountain, there are lots of little islands, of course. And I would like to tell you that in New Zealand, the ocean is, well, not like any other sea or any beach, because I'm probably sure that most of you have been to the seaside in some country, and you probably have experienced when the sea is a bit more rough than usual. Well, in New Zealand, that's a bit different, because the waves are about 2 meters high, but when the sea gets rough, they can go up to about 3 or 4 meters high, and when you're in there, it attracts all the surfers and all the people doing all the water sports, but I personally, I'm a swimmer, so I felt that I can do that because I feel like a strong swimmer. And I went in there and, well, a few times I thought, this is a bit difficult, so it's not really advisable, I would say. I regret doing it. The redwoods. There's always a name of the Maoris call it. I'm not that good with the pronunciation of Maori, so if you excuse me, I will not use that term. The redwood forest is, well, I have been to the redwood forest, and it's very interesting. All the trees are hundreds of years old, and they're massive. I think on the middle picture, if you can see, there's a man behind that tree. That's how big that tree is. And the bark is very interesting on the tree, because the bark is about 15 to 25 centimeters thick. And the ancient tribe, the Maori, they used to use this bark for training on, basically use it as a punch bag in the same way we use it nowadays. Obviously, because of how big this forest is, they use it all the time as a sport. I don't know how I should say, like off-road tracking or cycling or running. It is voted. I think I wrote it there. Yes, Red Bull magazine have voted in the top 8 places globally. Why Otapu? There is no English word for it, so I will have to use the Maori expression. It's very similar to the first one I showed you, Alpine Crossing, except over here the volcanic activity is strictly based underground, and you get lots and lots of geysers around here. You can see that the water is red, and actually it is the actual water that's red, because it looks like the red rocks on the bottom, but it's actually not, because the rocks give off some special chemical that makes the water turn red around it. I've been to this place, and it was I was only very small. I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I remember taking my sandals off on the rocks, and I burnt my feet because the ground is so hot over there. Well, I couldn't leave the Maori tribe out of my presentation. There's a special little Maori village that you can go to that is basically to show you how the Maori used to live and what they were like. I think I will show you this, yes. Well, it's, I don't know, special for the Maoris. They always have to point their tongue out all the time. They're always, when they show you their special dance or something, that's always the very male-dominated sort of dance, with the men shouting at each other and sort of fighting with each other as well. Cathedral Cove, I obviously couldn't leave this out because it's one of the most famous places in New Zealand, because it's one of the filming places of lots of films. For example, most of the Narnias were partly filmed here, Lord of the Rings were filmed here. Excuse me. And it's a wonderful place to go to. You can climb up that rock that you can see on the top right picture. You can go to the other end of the cave. It's quite a long cave. It's quite beautiful. Now, that was North Island I told you about. South Island is a bit different. It's not really a place that you visit to specially go to places. It's just, the South Island is a place that you just go there to see the whole thing, because there's no special places really there, because the whole place is just so amazing. I haven't been to South Island, although me and my family are thinking of going there because of the things we heard of it. For example, Milford Sound, it's basically a boat trip you can go to, which takes you down, I don't know, about 120-kilometer boat ride, but at one end they go whale watching, and you can see lots of sea animals. It takes you to the glaciers of the South Island. Here's some more photos of it from a distance. You can see lots of waterfalls, you can see the snow on the top of the mountain. Lake Tekapo, it's one of the largest lakes in New Zealand. There's lots of resorts around this lake, lots of hotels, lots of places to stay. We are actually thinking that if we do go to South Island, that we would visit this place. You can also see lots of old buildings around it, because well, there were lots of tribes in New Zealand, not just the Maori, but because the Maori mainly lived in the North Island of New Zealand, but in the South Island, lots of like shrine monuments were built. Fiordland National Park, there's not much really to say about Fiordland National Park, but I just had to put it in because of the actual beauty of this place. It's the biggest national park in New Zealand, although I think you could actually just call New Zealand a national park, because the whole thing is basically wild. The area of New Zealand is probably about 4, 5, maybe 6 times the size of Hungary, but the population is only about 4 million people. So there's a lot of wildlife there. Here's some photos from a different view of this place. I think it's magnificent. This is my last one. I had to save the best one for last, obviously. air safaris is basically an aeroplane trip. They do ground tours as well that takes you through the glaciers, but this aeroplane trip just takes you over all the mountains, the main mountains, and all the biggest lakes of South Island. Over here you can see a massive glacier. Really interesting, these glaciers, because they're not as solid as any other glacier in the planet, because of the climate of New Zealand is much warmer than anywhere else. And the wind is so still, so the glacier is actually moving at about 0.5 kilometers an hour all the time. Well, I haven't got much more things to say about New Zealand. I don't suppose I can ask you if you've got any questions. I thank you all for your attention.